So this is really the last slide. So what does this proposal offer the people here? So looking behind that grab bag of facilities, what is it that we can imagine from what we've seen? This is what we really need to discuss next. And we just wanted to, as a last point, say, let's have a look at perhaps the worst case scenario. Paradise Palms development up the beaches there in Cairns started out as exactly the same thing. World-class 18-hole golf course, surrounded by housing, bought by Japanese, lived in by holidayed with Japanese mostly, and after about 10 years or so, the resort folded, and then basically it became residential accommodation when people in Cairns bought in.
Steve Nakowski has written a letter for the meeting.
Yes, please. Yep, can you read that out? And I'm sure there are other examples. So what we have to be looking at here is that this will become at some point the Chinese, it will not be the flavour of the month for the Chinese to come here. There'll be some other thing. Maybe the barrier reef will fold, in which case, we don't have the attraction draw card, so they'll go somewhere else and we'll be left with basically a residential suburb. So Stephen Nakowski, do people know who that is? He's a photographer. I think we all thought that the Barnwell site was safe. It is of course zoned rural, and the upcoming new planning scheme retains this tenure type. Ken Lee was feeding us lies as he continued to clear perhaps up to 200 hectares of healthy revegetated regrowth that he was to run cattle on. As stated in the recent Four Corners episode, the money flowing into Australia from Macau casinos as laundered money is breathtaking. Mrs. Stephen believes that Ken Lee could be a middleman for funneling money out of Macau. What is his end game? Who knows? What I know is that he's already trashed huge swathes of rainforest, and he's a businessman who needs a return on his investment. Simply by having the Barnwell Road rezoned from rural to residential will tenfold increase the value of the land. I challenge anyone to identify any integrated resort in Australia of this scale. None exists. This will just become another fancy urban subdivision with perhaps a golf course, a resort, a few unit blocks and maybe an equestrian centre. Most likely there'll be shops, corner store and some food outlets. The rest is crap. From my experience in the False Cape and Port Hinchinbrook campaigns, the following can be observed. Port Hinchinbrook. Promise for 2,000 bed hotel never happened. Promise free marina berths for traditional owners to operate cultural tours never happened. Promise to golf course never happened. An airstrip never happened and the shopping complex never happened. What did happen was about 200 canal residential blocks and marina berths for sale. False Cape promised up to 150 blocks at 500 square metres each, never happened. Promised 2 unit blocks, never happened. Complete project went into liquidation with a nightmare environmental clean-up that needed to take place and funded by ratepayers. So where to from here? Probably another meeting. So we have some questions and discussion points, so I'll hand back to you, Bob.
Yes, and we have to rely to a degree on the discernment and the teeth that the state government have in assessing, do we not, Cathy?
John Elkins.
Yes, and it is a point of question, and that brings me to something that is a little bit of a tangent, but I've actually written an open letter to Craig Crawford, the member for Barron River, and it's headed Request for Community Meeting about KUR-World. Craig, as our elected member representing us in the state government, we seek your direct assistance regarding this development application, which involves the area known locally as the Barnwell property. The Mareeba Shire has advised us that they will not be involved in the decision making related to this matter. Rather, that the decision or decisions will be made directly by the state government through the Coordinator General. it is one thing to applaud the initiative of the developer who intends to spend a large sum of money to fulfil a dream that he has. We have learned over the years that as residents, it is essential to have as much involvement as possible and to be able to evaluate the merit of developments, measuring them against criteria that include what will be the impact on our environment, wildlife, economic, social and lifestyle. In these circumstances, we as a community consider we are powerless to influence the decision of the state government. There is a need to obtain much more information than has been given in the promotional literature to enable effective evaluation of what impact a development such as this may have on the environment, wildlife, our Kuranda lifestyle, as well as having increased traffic on the Kuranda Range Road, to mention but a few. Residents of Kuranda consider it is completely unacceptable to proceed too far down the planning process without their input. After all, we have chosen to live in this beautiful location and want to avoid the situation where the state government makes decisions on the possible development without our input. As our local member, we rely on you to act on our behalf. Page 2. Faced with these circumstances, we respectfully request that, on our behalf, you, 1, contact the proponent of the development as our local member, arrange for him to attend a public meeting in Kuranda in August, advising the proponent of the objectives of the meeting, including discussing in detail the scope of the proposal. 2, arrangements for the meeting be facilitated by your staff with the support of Kuranda residents. 3, that you perform the role as chairman of this meeting in your role as representative of the state government. This will ensure objectivity during the process of the meeting. We would like to be able to provide notice of public meeting date in the next edition of the Kuranda paper with a deadline of Thursday the 21st of July. And that's signed by a group of organisations within the in Kuranda. And there has been indication from his electoral officer. Hi Bob, thank you for your email in relation to this. I have briefed Craig and we will have talks with both the proponent and the Office of State Development in arranging such a meeting. Kind regards, Chris Rollison. So we want to actually pass part of the responsibility over to the person who represents us in the state government. And I think that's a valid thing to do. Would the meeting agree? Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your presence here today, and we wanted to give the opportunity for the opinions of other community members. We already have our idea of what's Friends of the Earth and the planning group, so we've heard yours. And we really appreciate that. There's some food on the table if you'd like to stand around there, or otherwise, many thanks again for coming.